this second shooter thing, and I said it on my talked about it a little bit with the video leading up to this, just making this announcement. We're going to do this live stream tonight. Man, this second shooter thing is turning into a religion. Like, if there is anybody, including eyewitnesses that have come on, that I feel 100% are genuine, you guys have seen 2 of the interviews that I've done. Anybody that brings forward anything that dispels or discredits a second shooter theory, it's like they're going after them personally. And it's nuts to me. Like, oh, you're a Fed, you're this. These people are lying. They're plants. Like, this stuff is not a religion, man. Like, calm down. And that's another thing too. Is like, we can all, like, many people on here are getting on here and saying, hey, look, you know what? I believe there's a second shooter. I disagree with you. With that being said, I'm not coming after you and attacking you personally. So, we are going to go out to Butler. And what I want to do ultimately is put a team together. I definitely want to make sure that I include in that team some folks that believe that there's a second shooter. And we're going to go out there and do what we can, try to get access to that. I plan on coordinating that. I've already talked to Chris Martinson during our live stream about that. I think between that, there's a couple other technical folks that I would like to include on that, what ultimately would be almost like a working group. One person that we need is a surveyor. And I want somebody with a full GPS, surveying equipment, a full station where we can get out, we can get an idea exactly where Trump was, and then start lining up shots from inside the different windows. I want to know the exact elevation of where Trump was. His head was approximately 11 feet above the ground. Doing just a basic terrain analysis on a topographical map, that ground is elevated. There's a good chance that where Crooks was, and you can even see in the video, like the fence line, and it's not the best angle, but the top of that 6-foot fence looks like it's almost in line with the bottom right there at the eave of the roof, right there, the fascia. So, we need to do a little bit more technical analysis. And part of this ultimately is to, hey, to confirm or deny, was there a second shooter? Was a second shooter even possible from where people are trying to say that they are? And that's another problem that I have with this too, is like, first it's the rear window. No, you got that wrong. It's down at the bottom window. Now it's a vent. Now it's this. Like, we're going so deep into this. And ultimately, if there is really this, if there's this shadowy government agency that put, Crooks up to this, well, one thing that boggles my mind is if there's a shadowy government agency, and this is the riskiest, darkest of black operations that have pretty much taken place in a really long time. Man, you'd think that I actually hooked him up with like a $200 magnified optic and maybe a case of training ammo. You'd also think that folks, I can't stress enough how easy a 140-yard shot on a man-sized target is. Even with iron sights, it's pretty damn easy. You're not going to get a lot of wind deflection on 5.56 at that distance. It's just everything about this screams amateur to me. So what we did is we gathered together 2 shitty shooters, and we had this deep black operation riding on them, and it ended in failure. Like, that boggles my mind. So that's just, again, I'm going to be honest with you guys where I'm at on this stuff. And I know a lot of you guys don't like it. And that's fine, but this should be a community where we can come together and talk about these different things and be like, no, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. Without saying, what, you're a government shill or whatever else. Folks, again, I got a long record. You can go back and watch a lot of videos of me talking about the fact that the ATF should be disbanded. We should definitely be holding government accountable. What I don't think is that the counter sniper teams were involved in this. What I do think is that we had really shitty security to begin with, and they got lax and they got complacent, and they've been doing that for a while. Should the lead agent be held accountable, possibly fired? Which, by the way, folks, the lead agent, and I keep saying this, the lead agent, and I got pictures of her on the advance, by the way, was the female that couldn't holster her gun. She was the lead agent. So they're, you know, and we can get into DEI and failure starting right there. I mean, she's definitely tactically incompetent. Absolutely. Tactically incompetent. She should not be anywhere where her job is protecting anybody. She should be stuck somewhere doing paperwork, as far as I'm concerned. We can start there. She should probably be fired. I am absolutely cool with that. But what I do think is that we had really bad security. We had a tenth of the resources that the Secret Service have. We had a tenth of those actually in place. There were no counter surveillance teams. There were no counter sniper response teams. There were no canines out there. You know, they had no extra agents. And this is, again, we talk about it in the interview with my friend of mine. You know, he said it was standard operating procedure where we would have additional agents or ECU members out there with local law enforcement, so that there would be a Secret Service person with the folks with the local law enforcement, so that they could respond to things. They would have direct comms both to the counter sniper teams and to anybody on the ground with Secret Service, so that there was no lapse in communication with that whatsoever. So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't know what else to say with that. But what I do want to do is get out there. I think that I'm again, just like I said earlier, I'm ecstatic that people are motivated about this. I'm ecstatic that people this has brought to their attention some of the crazy things that our government does. Our government has time and time again, with these active shooting events, tried to turn them into a right-wing nut that does this. And when come to find out, we have people that are motivated by left-wing ideologies, it is crickets. They silo that information. They don't share it. You know, just like I showed you guys with the deputy director of the FBI. He gets up there and says, basically, you know, we can't really talk about much, but what we do know is that this guy is basically a Republican. All right. And he laid out a bunch of different things to imply that he's a right-wing extremist. And that's what he was motivated by, when the real evidence that we have points the exact opposite. So that, if you want a government conspiracy, we can start there. I believe that the FBI is wholly corrupt. I think they are nothing but the Gestapo of the Democratic Party. That's my thought on that. So there's that for a government shill, huh? This Max Urick thing. I don't know. You know what? And some of this stuff, folks, I don't think we're ever going to know. If it goes that deep, you're not going to know. But regardless of, if you don't want this to ever happen again, there has to be consequences. And so we have to direct the consequences and the outrage toward the people that should be held responsible. If we get in there and we start, getting somebody like Mayorkas fired, or we start really holding Biden politically accountable for this, because we know exactly what would happen if it was Trump. If Biden was on the campaign trail when Trump was president, and there was an assassination attempt like this, we'd hear about it every single day, how Trump is an incompetent leader. He's the one that's responsible for this. The news would be nonstop, 24/7, talking about the incompetence of Trump. And we have not heard that from anybody really on the right when it comes to Biden. Biden is the commander-in-chief. He's ultimately in charge of all the agencies underneath him. They're part of the executive branch, and he should be held to account, and including Kamala Harris. This should be out there. They should be out there on the campaign trail. Trump should be talking about it every single day, but they're not, for whatever reason. All right. So let's a lot of comments. I appreciate it. I also saw some super thanks chats, whatever they're called. I appreciate that. And those will definitely get priority. I'm going to start putting some things up on our Patreon. I have some images and things like that if I share them to YouTube, obviously we're going to get a strike. They're going to ban us and all the other stuff, all the other games that they play. So I'm going to start putting them on Patreon. I have to take a deep dive and look at what the rules are, and I don't plan on putting them behind a paywall. I just want to make this stuff available and put it in a spot where you can go and look at some of these things. And as I get information in, I will put it there. And folks, I don't have the ability to vet it all. But if I get 3 different images, and I kind of do right now, I have a couple different images of, you know, supposedly crooks dead, and they show very different things.